My name is Marcin Blacha, and I'm a lead writer for The Witcher 3. I work at the project Red, and here is my presentation about designing story for The Witcher games. And my first question is, do we have any English-speaking persons here? I mean, only English-speaking, because I'm not a very good English. Okay, thank you. I'm not a very good English speaker, and I will do my best. But it's something. If there will be something you won't understand, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. I will try to explain it, and as I said, I will do my best to explain everything. So, as I said, I'm a lead writer in CD Projekt, and we are doing RPG games. Previously, we were doing games from the Witcher series, Witcher 1, Witcher 2, and now we are working on Witcher 3. Also, we are doing our new game, Cyberpunk, and I think we have a pretty huge experience with creating stories for video games, and I was working on all the Witcher titles, and I think personally I also have pretty nice experience with that. So, when we start a new project, we are always reckless and excited about it, because there is so many new possibilities. We can do almost everything, because in CD Projekt, all CD Projekt games are story-driven, and in our company, everybody understands that story is the most important thing for those games. So, when we start a new project, we know that we can do almost anything, that sky is the limit, and we are always, we don't worry about technology, we don't worry about other stuff, we just want to make a good story. And being a writer for video games is a wonderful thing, because it's quite different experience than writing a book or writing a script for a movie or a TV series. It's very difficult because we have very limited control over the script, and there are billions of directors, we call them players, and the only thing we can make is to make the story, give them to the players, and they will play it their way. They can do anything with the game we are, with the story we prepared. So we have only one chance to impress them. We can. They cannot give us feedback, and we cannot correct things and give them the game again. We have only one chance. We are making something interactive, not a book, not a movie, something interactive, and it's very challenging. So, before we start a new project, we always repeat that Witcher games are story-driven, and story is the heart of the games. And it is not a bullshit, it determines the production, because from the beginning to the end, writers and quest designers, especially quest designers, decide what content should we prepare for the game. Graphics and the gameplay are very important, as important as the story, but for the RPG game, I repeat, the story is the most important thing. So writers and quest designers decide what the game is about. And in different companies it looks differently, but inside the project we have almost no limits. When we starting a new project, we can do, I think, almost anything with this project. If you want to make a game about killing kings, we do game about killing kings. We choose characters, we choose places. It's really great because we are limitless. And when we start a new project, we know what we liked and disliked in previous one. And this is very important for us because we try to learn on our mistakes, and all the time we try to improve things. Also story. Video games are rapidly changing, and now there are many ways they are changing. I mean, there are many types of video games, but also RPG genre is changing, and we try to improve our games all the time and make it better and better. So when we start to design a new story, we think about all the mistakes we did in our previous project, and also we take into consideration new gameplay features and technology that may influence the story. For example, when we started Witcher 3, the very first thing we knew about it, it was that it will be an open world game. And it changes a lot, because in Witcher 2 we had those hubs. The story was, it wasn't linear, but the protagonist moved from one place to another, there was no moving back, and we had huge control over the story. And now in Witcher 3, when we decided that it will be an open world game, we had to forget about everything we've learned, and we had to learn how to make a story for an open world game. If you know the Elder Scrolls games, you know the way they did it. They did something like separate quests, one storyline divided to very loose, not connected quests, and this is not the thing we want to do. We want to make a story in an open world, but we want to make a story we want to make a script like a script for a movie or for TV series, and it's really very challenging. I will tell a little bit more about it. So, in the beginning, when we start designing a story, we do not think about it in terms of a game. It's the next step, but we are trying to make just a good story, no matter it's for a video game. And first of all, we try to create something new, something never seen before, especially in video games. It's our rule of novelty, because we want to have fun creating stories for video games, and we don't want to repeat things someone did before. So always we are looking for new ways, for new stories, for new plots, something never saw before in video games. And our idea is that a story we create should fit not only a video game, but should be translated to movies and popular TV series, or should be a story taken from a book. And it is our assumption, and we try to make a universal story because we know that finally it will be better than story created specifically for a video game. And we have some other rules. We try to avoid banality, and we throw out from our stories, from our brainstorms, everything that seems to be cliché. And originality means that originality is seeing through fresh eyes, and it's using well-known blocks and well-known bricks and setting them in a completely unique order. So we have werewolves, we have vampires, we have warriors and knights, and all this fantasy stuff. But we try to use these bricks and put them in a completely new order. And it is very exhausting. It takes a lot. It takes us a lot of time, but originality is very important for us. And we want to give something unexpected. As I said before, we avoid to tell we avoid telling cliché stories because we think that we want to make games. We want to make a game we would like to play. So we are bored of games with those cliché stories. So all the time we are trying to think about something unexpected, something new. And another important thing we try to remember about is freedom of choice. In opposition to other medias, video games are particularly interactive. So, especially in role-playing genre. So, the player playing a role-playing game wants to have choices. It's, I think, the most important thing. And he wants to shape his character, and he wants to shape story. So we try to make games that way that that the player can develop the story as he likes it. And that's the reason why we are making games with non-linear stories and with choices and consequences. So when a pre-production for a new game starts, in the early stage of a project, story team is in the center of attention. This means the writers are isolated, and all the time they are sitting, thinking, writing stuff, and thinking about new ideas. And story team, in this very moment of pre-production, story team makes something like a foundation of the story. Story team are writers. Writers communicate with gameplay team and art team and programmers, because sometimes they need because they need to know if the game will be set in an open world, or will we have horse riding, or will we have diving, or something like this, because in a good gameplay should always support story, and story should always support gameplay. So writers communicate with other people from the studio, but they are the only person who decide what will be story about in this moment. And in general, writers don't care much about anything else besides the story. They think about interesting situations, believable characters, and this approach helps us to free our minds and help us to generate innovative ideas. And I think it's a good way to make a story for a video games. However, it also has its drawbacks. I will tell about them later. And in the next step, the story goes to quest team. And inside the project, we have two separate teams: writers or story team. They are people responsible for making the story at the early stage and later on for writing dialogues for the game. And quest team, these people design quest, and in next step they also implement it. I mean, they are responsible for putting together all things and actually making the game. So this story, I mean this general document, goes to quest team, and they start to make game of it. I mean, they divide it and they start to design all the quests. And in the project, quests are designed in cooperation with writers because it's always generates some discussions. Dialogue is a very good way to design things. But nothing comes easy, and sometimes writers swing in clouds, and that really helps to create better stories than video games usually have, but it also causes some problems in production stage, because some things just can't be done, and some other things are lost in translations to quest, or some other things are just stupid because writers sometimes are stupid. And this story sometimes is not perfect, and when it's translated to quests, sometimes it loses something, but some things are improved, some things are lost, and in the final process we have a series of quests with interesting characters, interesting events, and many loopholes, and we have to fix it. Usually we are trying to do it in pre-production phase, but you know, pre-production ends and production starts. It's time to actually do the game, and it still has some issues. So the process of improving the story and fixing the loopholes is never done. We do it all the time until the game is shipped. So, production starts, and what is happening to the story? So, quest teams now is in the center of attention. Those guys are responsible for making the game, for putting everything together, and now they are the masters of the story. And it's being a quest designer is very challenging, and because you have to remember, you have to think not only about the story, not only about your quest, the quest you are doing right now, but also about all the assets, all other things you need to finish this quest. Writers support quest designers, but they are not not the guys who actually make the game. In production, so the project red, story team write dialogues and on-screen text for the quests, and also we are trying to support quest designers with various story issues, because as I said before, on this stage there are usually many issues with the story we still need to fix. And story changes many times. We constantly improve it, and when we improve one thing, we produce new issues. So we start to fix those issues, and then we produce new issues, and we are fixing, and then someone comes and says, "Hey, we have to finish it," and we finish it. And we iterate and change many things during production process. This is I think this is inside the project red we really repeat, and everybody says, "No, please, I don't want to repeat it again," and then you repeat again, and it's very boring, it's very exhausting, but with this pipeline we have and with this workflow we have, it just happens, and finally we ship a really decent game. And we really repeat a lot and iterate a lot. So if you never if you are not if you never did a game and you are thinking about making a game, I think it's the only way to do something really valuable. I mean, to constantly throw out things, make things from scratch, cut someone off, throw it away, add something new, fix it, improve it, iterate, repeat, and in the very beginning, writing a story is a very it's very it's very pleasant, but in the end it's very boring, and when the project ends, we are really tired. Inside the project red in our in Warsaw we have five writers, twice as many quest designers, and all those people are pretty independent, and everybody is trying to do his stuff. And Witcher games are very huge. I mean, Witcher 3 is really huge. We have many different quests, we have a lot of teeny tiny quests someone has to do, and no one can control it, in fact. So people are just doing their job, and finally we have a game. Normally it's a very bad thing, because everything needs a direction, and also designing a story needs a direction, but when so many people work on the story, we are unable to control it. So the only way to solve this problem is to deal with it. So we deal with it, and Witcher is bigos. So it's a Polish national dish, cabbage, various cuts of meat, sausage, tomatoes, mushrooms, sometimes plums, wines, random stuff, all mixed together and slowly cooked. And if you played some Witcher game, I mean especially Witcher 2, you may see that there is a comedy, a tragedy, a little bit swearing, a little bit of fun, very dramatic moments, but also some stupid things like what the fuck. It's very mixed, and in fact it's not directed, and that's because people are different and everybody is doing things his or her way. So Witcher is like a Bigos, and we are okay with this. Also, Bigos is best when it's reheated, and as you remember, I told you about repeating things and iterating things. So it's like reheating Bigos. The more you do it, the better it is. At the beginning, I told you about some rules we established for our stories, for our games, and one of them was that we want to give players freedom of choice, and this means that our games are non-linear. And especially role-playing games are about freedom of choice. So in Story Team we pay a lot of attention to when we are designing choices and consequences, because those things make our game a little bit different than other games. And everything began at a brainstorm we had when we were designing a story for Witcher 1, and we tried to figure out how to convince the player that his choices are important and they have real impact on the game. So when a consequence triggers just after the choice, the player may simply load his saved game and try to do this, and try to take the other choice and to see what's the difference. And it's not fun. So so then we discovered something what we call delayed consequences. I mean, when you make a choice, you have first consequence, which is immediate, and later on, after a few hours of playing the game, you have another consequence related to this choice. After taking a choice, the player knows that something will happen in the future, and it's quite exciting for him because he waits. He wants to see what his decision has changed. For example, when a player decides to set a bandit free, it comes out that he's grateful, he gives him some valuable information, but after like 2 hours of playing, he robs and stabs someone very important for player character. And this is the delayed consequence, unexpected, and it makes this decision with setting the bandit free really important, really significant, and that's the way we do things. Players start to wonder maybe killing the bandit was the better option, and questions like this improve replayability for the game, and because players want to see what happens when he picks the other choice. But more important is the feeling that the game is complex and there is this unpredictable thing somewhere somewhere in the story, and you have to wait for it because something will happen and you don't know exactly why. What? You don't know exactly what. And those delayed consequences make the story more believable and more immersive. The player cares actually about the story, and he tries to foresee consequence of his choice. He analyzes pros and cons of the choice, and that makes the story more engaging. And it's a little bit similar to real life when sometimes we think what would happen if we could change something in our past life. It increases immersion of the game. And designing and implementing a story with choices and consequences is not easy, because taking a choice, if the consequence is really significant, and if you want to make it really good, it splits the story. It splits the story into two separate storylines, and from this moment of choice, we have like two different stories, and we have to design them and later on implement them. When the story grows in width, not in length, we are using time and resources to make something that some players will never see in a single playthrough. So the more branches in the story, the more branches in the story, the more difficult to control it becomes, and even a small change in a single storyline might cause something like a butterfly effect. All the dependent branches will require some tweaks and fixes, and we have to fix and change it and repeat and repeat and repeat, and we have to sometimes we have to redo some quests. Sometimes we need to replace some assets with another, and always every little change generates other changes, and the more branches we create, the more work we have later. But it's worth. It's RPG game, so the player wants to choose, and when we are doing non-linear story, and non-linear story and narration allows us to tell complex and interesting stories, because those decisions the player is taking, they really matter. And multiple parallel storylines also allow us to design plots with multiple endings. When you finish a game and it is finished in a very particular way, you start to wonder, what would happen if maybe I should choose something else. Maybe I should play it again and see other endings. It increases replayability. So the biggest branching we did so far, it was in Witcher 2, when we did this Roche Jorvet choice. At the end of Act 1, Geralt has to decide. Does he want to support Raffles but loyal Vernon Roche, or cruel but charismatic Jorvet? And this choice leads the player to one of two different storylines. we call them Act 2A and Act 2B. And there were two exclusive storylines, and each storyline had its own plot, and also it needed its very own assets, and branch 2A and 2B each had its own choices and consequences, so there were even more branches. So it looked like this, and but branching structure until the end of the game would be too expensive, and for this reason, Act 2 and 2A and 2B. I will show you. This is how it looked in our editor, and as you can see, those blocks are they contain another structures like this. So you know, it's really complex. So because we wanted to avoid another branching, and we invented something like a control node. So those storylines, like let's say Roche and Jorget, they meet at this control node, and in Witcher 2 it's the start of Act 3. Act 3 in Lokmuin, and in this control node they meet together, and of course there are still some new branches, but this control node makes things a lot easier for us, especially not for designing the story, but for implementing bug fixing, recognizing who is dead, who is alive, and how the world has changed. So when the game runs and the story reaches this moment we call control point, it may occur that NPC can be both dead or alive, for example, like, I don't know, cancelled, and when the game runs, we have to recognize in some way, is he dead or alive? We call it Schrödinger's cat issue, and it also applies to all the changes in the world. So we need this control node to check what's the state of the world, what's the state of NPCs, is the village burned or not, etc., etc. And we have a tool for this. It's called Facts Database, and this fact database keeps us up to date with states of the world. And each time player makes a decision during an important choice, we add a fact to our database, and also we can assign a number to this fact, and this allows us to check more complicated changes. It's very useful tool because we can really control almost everything in the game. In Witcher 2 we have like hundreds of things that player could change, sometimes they were really small, but it was 100 or even more. And this screen is also from our editor, and it shows how does it look. It's a fragment of a dialogue, very simple dialogue. As you see, it's made of blocks, and here we have input, something like an introduction to this dialogue, and this triangle, it's a flow condition block. It checks if fact exists or not, and what value is assigned to this fact. So in this structure, we can talk to Sheldon's cats at work. So we are entering dialogue, and this triangle checks if we met him before. We won't met him before, so this part, this is dialogue when he says, "Hi, I'm Sheldon Skarks, nice to meet you." Then this is a script. This script adds a journal entry for Sheldon Skarks, and this block. Oh, sorry. This block. It's also a script, and it adds fact. This fact, and now the fact database knows that we've met Sheldon Skarks before. So next time we start to talk to Sheldon Skarks through the input, through the flow condition block, and did we met him? Yes. So we won't go this way. We will go this way, and we have this dialogue. We don't have introduction, and this fact we call it non-met. And this fact about Sheldon Skarks, have you met him or have you not? It's one of hundreds of facts in Witcher games, and this fact database let us keep control and let us track all those facts. In addition to nonlinear structure in our storyline, we sometimes use some nonlinear narration techniques, and here are a few of them. Flashbacks. When we take a choice and we have those delays consequences, they are like a few hours of playing after taking the choice. So the player when he meets the consequence, he doesn't remember what caused it, and then we display the flashbacks. Flashback is a set of illustrations with narrations, and those illustrations and this narration reminds the player what decision he made and what led to this consequence. So, for example, I set the bandit free, and now, after a few hours of playing, my beloved woman is dead and robbed. Also, the flashback, we are trying to say a little bit more about other consequences player's decision had, like what impact to the world it had. For example, this bandit had his family and now they are starving. Player will never know about it, but it's something like a omnipotent narrator who tells to the player, because player needs to be informed. Also, we have replacers. In Witcher 2, a player could play an assassin, or King Henselt, or as far as I remember, also Saskia. And Replacer is an NPC who replaces the protagonist for some time. And we are doing this thing for two reasons. One reason is that sometimes we need to tell a story from other point of view, like from a perspective of a king, or from a perspective of a witness of something in a place far, far away. And that's the first reason, because it makes the narration richer. And the second reason is that it's quite refreshing. It's quite refreshing to sometimes to play some, to pick some other character, see some other stuff, do things that the protagonist never normally do, and it makes the game just more interesting. However, it has some drawbacks, because playing a Replacer is an immersion killer sometimes, because I want to play my character, and now the game says me, no, you have to play this. So some people don't like it. For example, I don't like it. And the other thing is that Replacer is never as good as character is, as the main character is, as the protagonist is, because he doesn't have all those skills, all those items and gameplay that the protagonist has. So it's only for story purpose. And for this reason, all those Replacer moments need to be very short, and they shouldn't be too frequent. And another technical use is reverse chronology. We don't use it very often so far. I think we used it only once in Prologue to Witcher 2 when Vernon Roche and Geralt are talking in the prison, and they are talking about past events and about siege of the Lavalet Keep, and about the dragon, and about trees, and etc. etc. And during this dialogue, the player may choose what story does he want to hear from the past, and later on he's playing this story. Okay, so we have to finish, but all those things, I mean, non-linear narration, non-linear storytelling, are really, really important to us, and it's very difficult to design a story like this, but it's also very satisfying. And thank you very much, and once again, sorry for my English.
Thank you very much. Oh, we've got a question, yes?
Yes, I have a question about this email you have just shown us, because there is, I think that it could be a placeholder, name at CD Projekt.
I think you should try it and see what happens.
Okay, so thank you very much to Marcin for the presentation one more time. Yes,